Okay, so let's talk about goal setting. Number one way of making ourselves more productive is to set goals and keep them. So today I want to talk all about goals. Those of you who have decided to join me on this journey, you already know that this is a self-coaching series, and I am very, very happy to have some of you joining along with me. So let's get started. This week is very, very vital to what you will accomplish as you follow this entire series, because setting your goal is the most key thing that you could do. Because first you have to have the correct direction in which you're trying to transform your life. And then from there, we'll talk about the supports and exactly how to achieve it. But this is the foundation of everything that you're going to do over the next few weeks. And if it's done appropriately, then it's definitely transformative. So let's get into goals. Like I said, we're going to talk all about goals. We're going to talk about how goals increase your productivity, how to define your goals, and then also what to do if you don't know what your big goal is. Because again, we're talking about your big goal, your big transformative goal. What do you want to do to completely change or build something in your life? Now within that goal, you may have smaller goals or milestones, which we'll talk about in another video. But for today, we're talking about your big, big goal. What exactly are you trying to achieve to cause transformation in your life? And so we will talk about what to do if you don't know what your big goal is. Okay, so last video I talked a bit about the importance of writing your goals down. And so I just wanted to underline that point. And you see here, Forbes quoted the Harvard business study where they looked at all of their MBA graduates, and 3% of the graduates wrote their goals down, 97% didn't, and the 3% that did, they made 10 times the amount of money as those who did not, just 10 years after graduation. So that's just a fact to give you so that you understand it's very, very important and very, very productive to write your goals down. Okay, so let's talk about what is required to make your goal transformative. Your goal has to be audacious, and I'll go into these reasons in a minute, but your goal has to be audacious. It has to be purpose-driven, and it has to be defined. If you have those three things, those three elements within your goal, then you'll have a very good foundational goal that if you execute, you take action to achieve that goal, you'll see transformation. So again, your goal has to be audacious, purpose-driven, and defined. So let's first talk about audacity. If we just look at the Google definition of audacity, it's showing a willingness to take surprisingly bold risk. Now, when we talk about what is surprisingly bold, this is something that's surprisingly bold for you. Not surprisingly bold for your neighbor, your sibling, your coworker. This is something that's bold for you. When you're thinking about your personal goals, you have to really think about how you feel and what you think about the actions that you're taking. So if something is surprisingly bold for you, and you're willing to take the risk to achieve transformation, then you have an audacious goal. So for today, what we want to make sure is that whatever goal you pick, that it passes the audacity test. So the way you do the audacity test is you stand in front of the mirror, you look at yourself, and you say your goal aloud. If the first time you say your goal aloud, looking at yourself in the mirror, if it's not funny or if it's not scary, then it's not your goal. This goal needs to be something that when you yourself actually imagine telling yourself or others that you are in the process of achieving it, it has to feel like it's a joke or that it's extremely scary. That's how you know that you have an audacious goal. Okay, the second element is purpose-driven. Let's do the Google breakdown of that. So purpose is the reason for which something is done or created or for which something exists. And driven is operated, moved, or controlled by a specific person or source of power. So your goal has to be purpose-driven. Saying that in another way, your goal has to be moved or operated by the reason it was created. And why is this even a thing? The reason why this is a thing is because making your goal purpose-driven is saying that this is my why. This is my reason for doing this. So making your goal purpose-driven is really saying what motivates me. Why am I trying to achieve what I'm trying to achieve? And the reason why this matters so much, not to get too deep into the science of it, but our brains is predominantly gray matter, right? And so our gray matter tells us how to make decisions. That's our conscious mind. That's our rational thoughts, right? But we have a very small, very complex system in our brain that's called the limbic system. So even though it's tiny, again, it's very complicated and it's very important, because if you put it in simple terms, the limbic system takes control of your emotions or governs your emotions. So to put this in practical terms to help you understand how important the why is, imagine that you're trying to lose weight, and I'll just use a weight loss example for the entirety of this presentation, but imagine you're trying to lose weight and your gray matter, your conscious mind says, in order to lose weight, I need to wake up, go to the gym, and eat less, right? But your unconscious mind, your emotions, especially in the fall, would say, I don't want to get up and go outside. It's raining. How about I just snuggle on the couch with some hot chocolate and watch TV, right? So that unconscious mind is saying, I don't want to go to the gym. And the unconscious mind is what controls whether or not you get off the couch. That logical mind, your conscious mind, your gray matter, will constantly make excuses or logical reasons as to why you should or shouldn't do something. But that unconscious mind, that more limbic system generated emotion, is your gut. So when your gut tells you to do something, then you're more inclined to do it. And we'll talk about this a little more, but just think about if you start to train your brain to understand the why behind something, it actually transforms your actions. So let's look at it from this perspective. What your purpose is not, right? So what is not the purpose of your goal is not to make money, I promise you. The purpose is not to work from home. The purpose is not to fit into your old clothes. And it's not to get a promotion. So these are all goals. These are all fine goals, but they are not purpose-driven. This is the piece that your conscious mind would tell you, that I want to make more money, for example, or I want to fit into my old clothes, as an example, right? But when you're sitting on the couch and you're thinking to yourself, I don't want to go to the gym, thinking about your old clothes is not going to motivate you to get up. So what your purpose may be is, instead of to make money, it may be to fund a nonprofit. Instead of working from home, it may be to be more present for your children. Instead of to fit in your old clothes, it may be to feel confident on your wedding day. So when you have this purpose-driven concept underlying your goal, if you're sitting on the couch and you're thinking and imagining and envisioning yourself confident on your wedding day, your gut is going to be more inclined to get up and go to the gym or to not eat whatever you were planning to eat. That's going to drive you far more than the concept of fitting into your own clothes. So you want to make sure that you have a purpose-driven goal, and that purpose has to be something that is moving your thoughts and your ambitions. It can't just be a target, because when you have a goal that is not purpose-driven, then it's just a target. It's just something that you want to do, something that you want to reach, right? But when it's purpose-driven and when it's playing on your conscious and your unconscious mind, and it's helping you to start to align your actions with your desires, then it becomes your mission. So again, just make sure that your goal, your big goal, it has got to be purpose-driven, meaning that it is motivated by the reason that you created it. Okay? So now we're going to talk about defining your goals. As you define your goals, this is just a way to really keep yourself accountable. And we'll talk about accountability. We'll talk about breaking your goal apart and additional supports that you need to go along with your goal. But for today, we just want to look at defining your goal and making sure that you have a goal written down on paper. Okay? So when we define our goals, and we define goals that help us to stay accountable, which ultimately helps us to reach the goal, that's that execution that I was talking about before. If you have a good goal with a good foundation and you execute, then you're going to see transformation, right? So a good goal is going to be by a certain date or a certain time period, and then it states what you're going to do, and then it provides a measurement to what that change or that transformation is going to look like. So here are some examples. By 2021, I will reduce my weight by 200 pounds. Okay? So that has your date, your verb, and your measure. Another example, by 2020, I will build my business to $2 million in revenue a year. So both of these examples are definitely and could definitely be purpose-driven, and they both pass the audacity test. So these are two good examples of goals. And so it seems so simple when you look at it this way, but defining your goal and writing it down using this formula is your first big step. So once you write your goal down, I need you to celebrate, because this is your first accomplishment in this program, is writing down your goal and making sure that it follows all of the rules we just discussed. Okay? But what if you don't know your big goal? If you don't know your big goal, then you have to think about changing your mindset. You have to think of yourself as a company and act as though you are a company. Companies don't open, or businesses don't start without a vision, without a purpose, without a desired outcome, right? So you have to change your mindset and think of your one precious life. For your one precious life, you are the executive. You are over the company of your life, and it is your job to think and act in a way that is going to get you to where you need to go. So the first thing you need to do, if you don't know your big goal, is to change your mindset. And remember, what you want doesn't have to correlate with what you do. Think about that. What you want is your goal? And that's all we're trying to figure out today is what is your goal? So what you want does not have to correlate with what you do. I'll give you an example. Sure, you've been at work or at church or whatever, your neighbor, someone has come to you and tried to sell you cookie dough or wrapping paper, right? A mom who wants to help their child to achieve the best sales in the school or to get the most money generated to support a trip of some sort. We've all had that experience, right? That mom is selling wrapping paper or cookie dough. But her goal, what she wants in the end, is either a happy child or money for her child to go on a trip. So you see, what she wants does not correlate on the surface to what she is doing. She's selling something, but her goal is something completely different. So just really remember that we're not talking about what you're going to do to achieve this. We're saying, what exactly do you want? What exactly does your soul desire in order to transform your life? And then ask yourself, what do you want success to look like? How would you know when you reached success? And what do you need to improve to make this happen? Okay, so these are questions that you can ask yourself that are really going to help you to define your goal and help you get very clear in your mind as to what you're trying to transform. And if you still don't know your goal, then my second recommendation is that you follow your spiritual purpose. Everybody talks about what's my purpose or trying to find your purpose, or there are a lot of different discussions about purpose going on right now in many communities. And I strongly believe that we do all have a very unique purpose, and we all have a very unique spiritual purpose. And so the first thing that you could do is just look at your testimony. I mean, we hear people say, your message is in your mess, or the bigger the lesson, the bigger the blessing. If you look at the last time you went through something in your life that was just very difficult for you, it was very trying for you, it called on your faith, and then you surmounted it, then that is your testimony. And so if you look at that experience and look at what it taught you, you may find your spiritual purpose in that experience. And not to go too deep into this because I don't want to make this video too long, but if you could also look to the book of James. I've been studying James recently, and it talks a lot about how God uses our temptations and uses our tribulations to really show us what we are to become, or to show us our strengths. So anyway, if you still don't know what your big goal is, follow your spiritual purpose and look at your testimony. Or think about things where you ask, why isn't anyone ... And this is one tip that really helped me because, I am drawn to health information. My bachelor's degree is in health sciences. I've worked in health and human services for many years. I'm a health coach. My master's degree is related to administering health programs, and so I find myself constantly gravitating and drawn to things that relate to health. But I've never had a desire to be a physician, for example. So the more that I learn and the more that I realize about practical and functional medicine, the more that I ask, why isn't this information readily available? Why isn't anyone telling everyone about the importance of, different health information? And then when I started to consistently say, why isn't anyone, I realized that that's a part of my assignment. That's a part of my spiritual purpose, is to educate on the things that I am drawn to and the things that I do find value in. So that's just another tip. And then the last one is, if all else fails and you still don't know what your big goal is, then do what you feel you can't do, or what you feel you don't know how to do. Because if you're sitting around and thinking, I can't do this, or I wonder how such and such does that, if something is constantly on your mind, 9 times out of 10, that means that it's something that not only can you do, it's something that you should do. So take, for example, I don't know, like someone who sits around and thinks about how does a chef make such beautiful dishes, or how does a photographer take such great pictures, and someone who sits around and looks at the pictures and analyzes them and details them, and then always feels like, oh, I wish I knew how to do that, or I could never do that. If those kind of things, if there's something consistently that's staying on your mind, 9 times out of 10, it's something that you need to learn how to do or try to do, because it's probably something that you should do, something that's going to bring you great joy and has the potential to be transformative. So again, these are just tips on what to do if you don't know what your big goal is. And so for the rest of this week, I just really, really want you guys to dream big. And even though you're dreaming big, it does not mean that your goal doesn't have to feel big. The outcome of your goal could feel big and be big, but it doesn't mean that what you're doing has to be big. So let me explain that. Your purpose, or a purpose-driven goal, may be something that appears tiny on the surface, but the outcome is big, and the dream behind it is big. I know when I first became a single mom and I was going to church. My church has a single mother ministry, and so when you have small children and you're a single mom, they have a valet. And so you pull up to the valet and they park your car and someone walks you into church. Well, that action, that activity, it's not really big. Somebody's just parking your car and walking you into church. But the outcome, the support that I know I felt as a single mom was huge. And so whoever decided that they were going to do that, it's not a big thing necessarily that they did in terms of the logistics or the cost, but the outcome was huge. So think about things in terms of the outcome. How big do you want your outcome to be? But what you're doing may not be that large. So again, think about your goal. Make sure that it's audacious. Make sure that it is purpose-driven, meaning that the outcome is big. And then also make sure that it's defined. So, and use the equation that I gave you to write your big goal down. And then in our next video, we'll talk more about milestones, tasks, habits, limits, and some other tips and tools that are going to help to support our one big goal. And so we can start seeing some movement and seeing some accountability. So thank you guys so much for joining. I'm sorry that this came out so late in the week. I will try to start figuring this out differently. But if you're just joining us and you still want to become a part of this self-coaching series, please, by all means, join us, subscribe, put in the comments any questions that you guys have, anything you want me to clarify as it relates to your goal. I really appreciate you guys joining me on this journey, and we will talk soon.